Thank you, Mr Mundell. It is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship and to bring this very important debate. I'm grateful to the petitioner, John Bake, and to the more than 127,000 people who signed this petition, including 132 from my constituency of the South Cotswolds. This petition calls for a simple principle that trans people should be able to self-identify their legal gender without needing an intrusive medical diagnosis. For trans people to live with dignity, not bureaucracy, with compassion, not suspicion. It means allowing someone to change their legal gender through a statutory declaration. It already works effectively in countries such as Ireland, Argentina and Denmark. And it doesn't remove safeguards. False declarations remain a criminal offence. What it does do is remove unnecessary medicalised hurdles that dehumanise trans people and delay access to legal rights. Many trans people already live full-time in their affirmed gender without ever applying for a gender recognition certificate, precisely because the process is so inaccessible. The current system doesn't stop people from transitioning. It simply makes their lives harder, so much harder. The Liberal Democrats have long supported reform of the Gender Recognition Act to make it less bureaucratic and intrusive. Our party policy is clear. We support removing the requirement for medical reports, recognising non-binary identities in law and ending the spousal veto, the very proposals the Conservatives brought forward in 2018. And we believe in a wider approach too, expanding access to timely, high-quality healthcare and putting an end to all forms of conversion practices. I will give way.
I'm really grateful for giving way. And I'm sure she'll note that setting out last month's Supreme Court judgment, Lord Hodge counselled against reading this judgment as a triumph of one or more groups in our society at the expense of another. Nonetheless, it has caused immense distress to the trans community. Does she agree with me that now is the time for the government to commit to a clear timetable for allowing transgender people to self-identify their legal gender so that they can live with the dignity and respect, which is a basic human right?
I thank the Honourable Lady for her intervention. And yes, dignity and respect are exactly what we are talking about here, and I absolutely agree. Because for us, this is not about abstract debates. This is about real lives. This is about human beings and the right, the fundamental human right to live safely, freely and in their own truth. Yet today we find ourselves in a situation where one of society's smallest minorities is being targeted with hostility and violence. According to the 2021 census, only 0.5% of adults in England and Wales identified as trans or gender diverse, and yet entire newspaper front pages and hours of political debate are dedicated to their existence. This toxic and hostile debate has real-world consequences. According to the Office for National Statistics, hate crimes against trans people have risen by close to 200%. Since 2018. In 2023, of the nearly 5,000 transphobic hate crimes reported, only 126 led to prosecution. That is less than 3%. This is not acceptable. Nearly half of all trans and gender diverse individuals have experienced sexual assault. Nearly half. Trans women without access to gender affirming care are significantly more likely to attempt suicide. 1 in 5 will try. And while this is often painted as a culture war, the human cost is painfully real. Take Joelle. I will give way.
I thank the Honourable Member for giving way, and it deeply saddens me to hear some of those statistics. Would the Honourable Member agree with me that what we say in this House matters? It ripples across communities. And regardless of what side you sit on or where you are in the argument, at the centre of that argument are people. Does the Honourable Member also agree with me that we should be doing our utmost to protect the trans community and ensure they have the same rights as everyone else and that they can live in dignity?
I thank the Honourable Member for his intervention and wholeheartedly agree with his remarks and associate myself with them. Take, for example, Joelle, a trans woman who died of an eminently treatable cancer after waiting for 8 days on a general ward because clinicians couldn't agree on where she should be placed, a men's ward or a women's ward. That delay in treatment cost her her life. Not to mention the recent Supreme Court ruling and the devastating impact its implications are having on trans people who are just trying to get on with living their lives. I will give way.
Thank you. It is a pleasure to serve on your chairmanship, Mr. Mundell. I have many constituents who have been really affected by the High Court ruling, and one who I want to highlight works in the ambulance service and has breasts and uses women's changing facilities without any issue. Were she to be forced into using other facilities, it would declare to everybody her transgender status, and she has lived and has a gender recognition certificate as a woman. Does the honourable member agree that there is a real mess now created by this legal ruling which does need sorting out?
I thank the Honourable Lady for her intervention, and I am very keenly aware of the distress that has been caused by this Supreme Court ruling, and it seems to fly in the face of common sense when somebody who is clearly living life as a female would, under this ruling, have to go into male spaces. It just beggars belief. And this ruling doesn't only hurt trans people. It hurts any woman who doesn't conform to feminine norms, who may be challenged on entering a women's space. This isn't just a legal rollback for trans rights, it is also a rollback for women's rights. A recent survey response from a parent said, "I'm primarily worried about my trans daughter's safety as a result of the ruling, but I'm also worried about my cis daughter's future and the increasing pressure to conform to restrictive gender stereotypes." A trans person responding to the same survey wrote, "Stress, anxiety and uncertainty for the future. More and more, I feel like I'm having to shrink my life for my own protection." I will give way.
I thank the Honourable Lady for giving way, and it's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, Mr Mundell. I'm struck by not only the Supreme Court ruling, but also the interim guidance by the EHRC, which is causing extreme distress to a number of my constituents. And I'm now reassured, actually I'm having to rely on Margate Pride's own advice to their businesses to reassure them that there are things about that ruling and the guidance that they should be taking into account, that it's not legally binding, doesn't change the law. Businesses shouldn't feel pressure to rewrite or roll back their trans-inclusive policies based on that draft guidance alone. Mr Mundell, Chair, this is not a situation which is acceptable for anyone to be in, where interim guidance by the EHRC is causing more stress and anxiety than the initial ruling, and that anybody that thinks that this Supreme Court guidance, that ruling, is drawing a line and making things clear is greatly mistaken.
Yeah.
I thank the Honourable Lady for her intervention and absolutely agree this already vulnerable group, many of whom already struggle with mental health issues, are struggling even more as a result of the confusion arising from the ruling. So to return to the quote from a trans person responding to this survey, feeling that they have to shrink their life for their own protection. They say, "When discussions of safety have taken place in Parliament, there is a complete lack of empathy for the invalidation and fear that trans individuals are experiencing." Well, I say to that person and other people in the trans community, I hope that they are witnessing the empathy that is being expressed in this hall today. The government must modernise, simplify, clarify and reform the intrusive and outdated gender recognition law and bring in a new process like they promised at the last general election. We're being told the current system is robust. But how can a system be robust when over 31,000 people are still waiting just for their first appointment at a gender identity clinic? Some will wait for more than 7 years. Many will never make it through the process, not because they lack the seriousness, but because the bureaucracy is unbearable, as is the toll on their mental health. Public Health England has said that over a third of trans people attempt suicide at least once. This is a human tragedy unfolding as a result of the lack of suitable support and enough resources to see trans people through this process. I will give way.
I thank the Honourable Lady for giving way, and Mr Mundell, it's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. I also look at the Supreme Court ruling and that point where the judge said that the Equality Act does apply to trans people. Does the Honourable Lady agree with me that we have been failing trans people for many, many years in this country, despite the fact that they are covered by the Equality Act, and this has to change?
I thank the honourable gentleman for his intervention and wholeheartedly agree that equality means equality, no matter who the individual concerned may be. Even the government's much lauded £5 GRC fee is meaningless when the necessary private medical reports, blood tests and hormone prescriptions cost thousands. This is simply inaccessible to many, many people. This is not a system of integrity. It's a system of delay, expense, quiet exclusion leading to quiet desperation. Meanwhile, there are some rays of hope. Organisations like the Trans Legal Clinic are stepping in to fill the gap. Founded just 3 years ago, the clinic now supports trans people across the UK with legal issues relating to discrimination, housing, gender-based violence and access to care. Their staff are unpaid. Their clients often arrive in crisis and their work is saving lives. So now, their message to us as parliamentarians is clear. Legal recognition reduces suicide risk. Gender recognition reform would directly improve mental health outcomes. We need to get past this toxic debate and focus on the urgent reality of trans people who face violence, homelessness and systemic neglect. And I would like to end this speech with a simple reflection. There are, as far as I'm aware, no trans MPs in this chamber, but we all have trans constituents and we all have the capacity to imagine. Imagine waking up tomorrow exactly as you are, same body, same mind, but the world is treating you as somebody that you're not. They call you by the wrong name. They dismiss what you say because they don't see beyond that gender issue. And that is the daily experience of many trans people in the UK. We cannot ask... I will give way.
I thank the honourable member for giving way, and I think she's made a very comprehensive opening statement on behalf of the Petitions Committee, so I thank her for that. Does she agree with me that actually it's trans voices that are often left out when we talk about these issues and this debate, and actually we need to remember that there are humans on the other side of this, and that we need to be listening to our trans community when we are making decisions that directly impact their lives?
I thank the honourable gentleman for his intervention, and I will say that I've worked very closely with a member of my team who is a trans person in preparing for this speech today, and it has been absolutely eye-opening for me as a cis woman to find out so much more about the toll taken on members of the trans community as they try to navigate these impossible systems. There is so much more that I could have put in this speech today that would only, I think, arouse even more compassion. So in my own small way, I'm doing what I can today to try and be that voice of the trans community that, as the honourable member has pointed out, is not heard enough in this debate. So to any trans person who is listening to this debate today, please know that even in a parliament where your voice is still too often missing, there are people here who see you, who hear you, and who will fight for your right to be yourself. We have a choice as parliamentarians. We can stoke fear and division, or we can show leadership. Let's choose dignity, let's choose compassion, let's choose to recognise people for who they are as individuals and give them the legal recognition and protection that they deserve. Thank you.